Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. And it finished Aston Villa 1, Chelsea nil in a friendly in Abu Dhabi at the end of a week-long warm weather training camp for the Blues as they look to build fitness back up before the return of the Premier League season. But before I get into the match reaction, guys, make sure you smash the likes on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Yeah, I wasn't expecting too much from this friendly. Ultimately, in friendlies, it's about just building up fitness, having a look at players that potentially may or may not be ready for the first point for the first team imminently or at some point in the future. Ultimately, with so many players being at the World Cup, we've still got players there. Obviously, the England lads got eliminated last night. Guys that went out earlier have been having a little bit of time off. They're all going to join up again at Cobham next week. So there was kind of a very limited pool of players to choose from. The only first team players that were there, Jorginho, Aubameyang, and Cucurella, all three of those started. Would have been nice to see Chukwuemeka, but obviously still not quite ready. Reece James not quite ready. Neither was Fofana. And obviously we know that Chilwell and Kante are a reasonable distance away from returning to the side. So it was obviously going to be a very, very inexperienced lineup with the bulk of it made up of the academy lads. And Potter went with a back four system. I don't think there's too much to read into that other than the fact that there's a distinct lack of personnel available. He went with this back four system. We had obviously Brooking playing at fullback, Humphreys and Chalobah in the middle. Actually, Chalobah didn't start. He was withdrawn, subsequently rested. Gilchrist played there instead of him. Cucurella played. Then we had Webster, Jorginho and Lewis Hall in midfield with Hutchinson, Broja and Aubameyang up front, making a front three. So that was that was the lineup. It wasn't no issues with the lineup at all. It's a friendly, not really that asked about the lineup. It's not like we had a full kind of crop of players available to us in that respect. But I just want to start with the bad news first. Let's get the bad news out of the way and then we can move on to the good stuff. The bad news, Armando Broja looks like he's picked up a pretty serious injury. Looks pretty innocuous. A bit of contact with the Aston Villa defender, but the scream that he let out in anguish was really bad. And the fact that he couldn't even get himself up, he had to be stretchered off, really doesn't look good. I mean, I don't know what the prognosis is. He's not been for any scans yet, but I mean, worst case, it could be an ACL, could be some sort of ligament damage. And Graham Potter kind of after the game saying that there was no real update on it. But he said that it's an unfortunate action. I think he got caught up with their player on the ground. It doesn't look positive at the moment, but it's too early to say. Fingers crossed, but it's an awkward one. And it's a real shame for Broja because I'm not saying that Broja is like an unbelievable player or anything, but there's a lot of potential there. He signed that new long-term deal at the club, should be getting more minutes, more opportunities. We're pretty light in attack as it is. We haven't really got any out-and-out number nines. For some reason, Aubameyang seems to be playing out wide more often now rather than playing through the middle. He's the only number 9 option we've got, and it looks like he's picked up a pretty lengthy spell on the sidelines. Not only is it gutting for him because he's a young player and he's eager to impress and he's going to have to wait a while to get back on the football pitch by the looks of it, but it also leaves Chelsea in a big hole, massively, massively short of forward options, and it leaves us needing to delve into the window in January and do more business than we actually originally needed to do. I think now it's clear that if this Broja injury is long term, which it looks like it potentially could be at least a few months minimum, I would say, unless we get away very lucky with it, then we're going to have to try and bring in a centre forward of some description in January, because we can't just continue with Kai Havertz and Aubameyang, because that would be an absolute disaster. So fingers crossed for Broja, but it is really disappointing. And I see people say, "Oh, it's a pointless friendly. He got injured while we're playing this match." Oh, he could have got injured in training, could have got injured walking around his house, could have got injured anywhere. It's nothing to do with the friendly. It's just an unfortunate situation that's occurred. Lots of clubs are doing these friendlies. Teams have played more friendlies than Chelsea have so far. It's just an unfortunate circumstance. But it seems like Chelsea aren't really blessed in that department at the moment. It seems to be constantly picking up injuries, and it's a big blow to lose Armando Broja and leave us massively short there. So be interesting to see what we do in January in terms of bringing a forward in. But I wanted to move on to the positives now. Yes, you always want to win, but ultimately, more important than that was the fact that some of the young lads, the academy lads that we saw, acquitted themselves very well against an experienced Aston Villa side. Yes, they had some youth in there themselves, but a lot of experienced first-team players. they're a much more experienced side than Chelsea put out. Obviously, Villa far less players at the World Cup than Chelsea. Naturally, they're going to go a little bit stronger. And I felt we acquainted ourselves very well. The obvious positives were Lewis Hall, who started in his favoured midfield position, although he's very competent in a back line and at fullback as well. But he started in central midfield. I thought he was really good alongside Jorginho and Charlie Webster. And, Lewis Hall's now a fully fledged member of the first team. So, we're not going to see him feature much anymore for the younger sides. He's part of that first team. He's moved into the building now. He fully deserves it. And he needs to be involved in match day squads from now until the end of the season, because he can really add a lot to this squad, given the injuries we've got, given how poor players' form is, and the fact that he can play across multiple positions. He's got to be featuring regularly for Chelsea for the remainder of the season. So he was another big plus. We already knew he was a big plus. But for me, the biggest plus was Amari Hutchinson. We've been dying to see this guy. He's done really well in the youth teams. He was on the bench for us against Brighton when we got hammered. He didn't come on. I was really annoyed that he didn't come on in the Carabao Cup game against City, but he looks really good today. He was direct, pace, asking a question all the time. That run where he cuts and only hits the bar is great play. And he showed his quality. He looked really dangerous. Potter was pleased with him as well. Really good, dangerous. Asked the question all the time. Hit the bar in the first half, but throughout the game he showed his quality. And this is a player that he picked up from Arsenal. He's done really well in the youth teams. But what we've got to really do is not big this guy up too much. Because ultimately the step up from youth team football to first team football is massive. We don't know how he's going to do. And yes, he deserves opportunities in the first team. Yes, he should get those, but we've got to be patient with him, because, it's going to take time, and it's going to take time to adjust, and it's going to take time for him. He's still developing as a player. So to expect any great shakes in the first team straight away is not what we should be doing at all. We should be fully supporting the kid, allowing him to develop. And when he gets those opportunities, hope that he makes the most of them. And if he doesn't, don't come down like a ton of bricks on it. But he was a real positive. I was really pleased with what we saw from Amari Hutchinson, and hopefully he will be involved in more matchday squads in the first team and make his kind of full senior debut for Chelsea once the Premier League season gets back up and running again. Those were the two main positives. In terms of the first team players, I thought Jorginho did pretty well. Cucurella, I thought, had a good game. Aubameyang was dreadful, utterly dreadful. A terrible signing. I don't know why we signed him. We signed him because of Tuchel. We then sacked Tuchel after the very first match that Aubameyang plays. Aubameyang is past it now. He's washed. Yes, all right, he went on that run where he scored 3 and 3, but he offers nothing to this team. And now he seems to be playing out wide. So it's just another in a long list of really poor centre forward signings that we've made. And he was just dreadful today. Absolutely dreadful. The runs were poor. He just offered nothing. And I don't really see that changing going into the rest of this season. So in terms of the senior players, he was out of the three of them. He was the biggest disappointment. I think in terms of what we've learned from this game, we haven't really learned anything from this game, because we know what Jorginho can do. We know what Cucurella can do. We know about Aubameyang. We knew Lewis Hall was quality and what he could offer. What we did learn was that Amari Hutchinson's definitely ready to play for the first team. Other than that, we saw lads that, look comfortable at this level, probably aren't quite ready to step up to the first team yet. I thought Gilchrist was very good. Bashir Humphreys was good. And it was nice to see more guys get an opportunity. But ultimately, we didn't learn anything. Yes, it's some minutes in the legs, but the vast majority of those players aren't actually going to be featuring for the first team once the season gets back underway again. So, positives in terms of what the academy is producing and the young players doing well. But ultimately, in the big picture, have we learned anything to take back into the season restarting? No, we haven't, other than the fact that Lewis Hall and Amari Hutchinson should 100% be featuring in Chelsea matchday squads. That's not it for Chelsea action. Potter saying after the game that there is another friendly planned. Didn't say against who in the week before the Bournemouth game. So hopefully we'll see more of the lads that were involved in the World Cup there feature in that game. But yeah, that's just a very brief match reaction to it. Nothing too much to say. Result irrelevant. Youngsters did well. Hall and Hutchinson have to play more often for the first team. And we're just getting some more minutes in the legs. But yeah, guys, that's just my thoughts on the game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As I said, smash the likes on the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you again soon.